They came in silence, as conquerors often do, unannounced and indifferent. The Galactic Empire didn't need to posture or thunder into Earth's atmosphere with theatrical explosions. They had already won, in their minds, before the first troop ship even pierced the clouds. Satellites fell first, then comms. Military infrastructure crumbled like wet paper. They offered no declarations, only commands. Submission or extinction. Major Lex Maren watched their entry from a frost-covered ridge above what used to be Anchorage. Now it was nothing but blackened skeletons of buildings buried under ash and snowfall. He didn't speak. He didn't move. The ghillie suit he wore blended seamlessly with the ice-caked pines behind him, making him part of the landscape itself. He was the last breath of an already dying planet. Beside him, a younger voice crackled over the bone-conductive earpiece. "Lex, we got contact. 2 scout walkers. 1 drone wing sweeping the valley perimeter. Should I pull back?" Lex shifted his eye behind the scope of a battered but meticulously calibrated long-range rifle. A custom-built thing, forged from scavenged parts and old Earth craftsmanship. His voice came low and flat. "No, let them commit first. Count their movements." "Understood." The voice belonged to Rhea Kavlin, sharp-eyed, stubborn, just 22, but carrying the weight of a world on her shoulders. He'd pulled her out of a failed ambush 3 weeks earlier, and she'd refused to leave since. It wasn't loyalty, not yet. Just anger with nowhere else to go. Lex exhaled and adjusted the focus. Below, the scouts advanced with perfect formation. 4-legged walkers, sleek and silent, each step calculated by predictive AI. Nothing wasted. The drone wing overhead fanned out in a parabola, scanning with thermal and sonic overlays. But the cold, real, planetary cold, interfered with their systems. The Empire was precise, but not adaptive. They never had to be. Their enemies always folded. Lex didn't fire. Not yet. He watched, noting their route, the rhythm of their pauses, the subtle overlap in patrol fields. They were too comfortable. He spoke again. "Armin." A second voice chimed in, deeper and rougher. Armin Das, ex-military engineer, stationed miles east in the ruins of an old comms outpost. "Copy. You see this? Tracking now. They're running the same interval as yesterday's unit. Same pattern. Same timing. Good. Prep burst protocol Delta 7. Set for midday, 37 minutes from now. Got it. We'll relay to the rest. Let's cut the line." He shifted his scope once more. The snow had begun to fall again. Thick, slow flakes that muffled the world. In the distance, beyond the reach of patrols and drones, a sliver of sunlight broke through the clouds. Earth wasn't done yet. Hours later, deep within a steel-buried shelter beneath Mount Redgrave, Lex stripped off the ghillie suit. Steam rose from his shoulders as the heat met sweat-soaked clothes. Rhea sat by a cracked heater, her hands wrapped around a metal cup of something hot and bitter. The air inside the bunker smelled of gun oil, metal, and old earth, safe smells. "You didn't take the shot," she said. "They weren't worth it. They were vulnerable." "Predictable," Lex corrected. "Not vulnerable. There's a difference." She narrowed her eyes. "We're not going to win by waiting them out. We're not going to win at all," he said calmly. "But we can make it expensive for them." Rhea said nothing for a moment. Then, "How many are left? In this cell?" 9, including us. And across the network. Lex leaned back against the cold concrete wall. "Hard to say. Maybe 200? Spread across 5 continents, underground, fragmented. We lost comms with South Africa last week. Europe's quiet. Asia's got pockets, but no leadership. No one left to lead." She looked away, jaw tight. "I hate that they laugh at us. They laughed when Mars resisted too, until we turned half their garrisons into glass with the atmosphere cannon. And still lost. Lex offered a thin smile. Yes, but they stopped laughing. A siren chirped softly from the comms terminal. Armin's signal. Lex walked over, tapped in the decryption manually. Armin's face flickered onto the screen, grainy and pale. They're not reacting the way I thought, Armin said. Explain. After the burst decoy triggered, they didn't double back. They consolidated. Formed a triangular fortress perimeter around the blast site. No pursuit protocols. Lex frowned, which means they think they're being baited, which they are, but they're getting smarter about it. Armin nodded. We've got maybe a day before they adjust again. After that, this trick won't work twice. Lex turned away from the screen. Thought for a moment. Then, send Rhea the signal schematics. She'll run the next burst from point Theta. I'll handle the fallback from here. Armin paused. You sure? She's ready. Rhea straightened in her seat. I am. Lex didn't look at her. You leave in 20. The channel closed. There was a silence in the bunker now. Not just quiet, but an awareness of it, like even the air was bracing for something unspoken. Rhea stood. You think I'll make it back? If you follow the old quarry line. Avoid thermal breaks. Watch the snow density. Yes. And if I don't? Lex looked at her then, eyes dark but steady. Then someone else will take your place. She didn't flinch. That was the test. 20 minutes later, she was gone. Lex remained, fingers trailing across the surface of an old map spread across a metal table. Not a digital overlay. Not an augmented simulation. A paper map, creased and annotated with pencil, marked with red ink and cigarette burns. Each circle was a skirmish site. Each exagraph. They weren't just symbols. They were choices. Losses. Delays. The war wasn't about victory anymore. It was about memory. If Earth fell completely and no one remembered what resistance looked like, then humanity truly died. Outside, the patrols returned to base. The walkers powered down. The drones docked. They assumed the day was done. But they didn't know Lex Maren had already mapped their next 12 routes. And he was patient. So when the transmission from Site 3 arrived, fragmented, weak, but intact, he only said one word. Begin. Snow powdered the nose of the Imperial transport as it sliced through the sky like a surgical blade. Inside the matte black carrier, light pulsed along the veins of silver-armored soldiers standing in motionless rows, their visors dull with programmed indifference. At the front, Commander Reth IX paced, his tall frame rigid with contained superiority. A hybrid of flesh and machine, Reth had survived 57 planetary campaigns and deemed none worthy of fear. This planet lacks strategy, he said aloud, addressing no one and everyone. They dig holes where leaves and call it war. The pilot responded through the comm with a clipped tone. ETA to deployment zone. 60 seconds. High Command authorized full force clearance. Finally, Reth muttered, "We're not here to spar with ghosts. We are here to exterminate." Below, the Eurasian way stretched like a scar across Earth's northern skin. Frozen ridges, needle-thin cliffs, wind-carved hollows where visibility could drop to nothing in seconds. 100 Imperial drones had vanished into that terrain. Some simply stopped transmitting. Others were found dismantled, their cores still warm, rifles crushed beside them. The dropship released the strike team into the storm. Armor hissed as soldiers activated thermals and motion scans. Reth led the march, his boots crunching through frost with a cadence of inevitability. He expected resistance, small traps, petty sabotage, but not real challenge. Earth had lost its fleet, its cities, even its satellites. All it had left were stubborn pockets of fighters buried in the dirt, defiant but doomed. Across the valley, Lex Maren watched through the lens of his rifle. They moved tighter this time. Smarter. No open ground for long. One scout deployed a triangulating drone every 40 meters. Lex marked the pattern. Left, right, back. 3 staggered trails, each overlapping field of detection. Sophisticated. Efficient. He adjusted his scope's magnification. The lead was different, taller, heavier. Not just another foot soldier. Likely the commander. Lex tracked his steps, the fluid movement of someone who expected dominance. This one wouldn't flinch at a noise. Lex didn't aim for him. Not yet. Instead, he waited for the second trail drone to pass under a narrow overhang. He exhaled and fired. The bullet struck rock just above the drone's casing, ricocheted, and pierced its primary eye. The effect was instantaneous. The drone spiraled, its sensors spasming before shorting out with a burst of sparks. The patrol dropped into cover, but not quickly enough. Lex's second shot cracked into the exo joint of the rearguard's armor, shattering metal and bone beneath. The soldier screamed, then went still. Lex didn't wait. He rolled back from his position, disappearing into the trench he'd carved into the snow. The cliff was a death trap if he stayed. He'd prepared his next perch 4 days earlier. Reth's fist slammed against the icy wall. He's mobile. That's the third location strike. A one-man cell can't move that fast without exo assist. He's not using assist, one soldier said. We detected no energy signature. No traceable emissions. Reth paused. He's cold. Sir, body heat suppressed. Equipment analog. That's why we can't track him. No signal. No noise. The soldiers didn't respond. Many had never fought a war like this. Their previous deployments had been clean, orbital bombardments followed by drone sweeps. This wasn't war. It was an ancient hunt. They advanced cautiously now, deploying heat flares every 20 paces to mask their thermal signatures. They no longer mocked the cold. In their silence, the mountain answered back with distant cracks of shifting ice and the whisper of falling snow. Hours passed. Drones buzzed overhead, scanning every crevice, every shadow. Lex didn't fire again. He waited. Down in the next ridge, resistance fighters repositioned beneath a veil of camouflage netting. Armin studied his watch, noting the delay between each sonic boom, tracking the dropship's patrol route. Nearby, Rhea calibrated a mortar tube by hand, checking wind direction with a piece of ribbon tied to her glove. He's buying us time, she said softly. Armin didn't look up. He's bleeding them. But they'll adapt. They always do. Lex arrived silently, slipping between 2 boulders without breaking the rhythm of the storm. He was thinner than the others now, days without proper food, but his eyes were sharp and his fingers steady. They sent a commander, he said. Armin stood. How many? 7 advanced troopers. Full armor. Adaptive formations. Rhea swallowed. And Lex glanced at his rifle. 5 rounds left. They looked at him, unspoken words hanging in the air. He set the rifle down and opened a small case. Inside were handmade devices, tripwire triggers, miniaturized shrapnel bombs, signal jammers wired from scrap. Old tricks. He handed them out without ceremony. Set along the East Pass, he instructed. They'll sweep that route once they realize I'm looping. Rhea, you cover the fallback route with scatter mines. Armin, prep the cave system for burn retreat. If they get close, we collapse the entrance. Armin nodded. And you? Let's close the case. I'll lead them in. The next day, just before dawn, Reth's team found another drone, its eye torn out and a cartridge case resting beside it. The same message as before. I see you. This time, Reth didn't react with rage. He crouched beside the message, studying it with the attention of a man beginning to question the nature of his opponent. He's taunting us, one soldier said. No, Reth said quietly. He's studying us. Testing. They moved more cautiously now, deploying wide thermal fields and mapping every terrain feature in triplicate. And still no sign, no sound. The snow fell heavier. Then, from nowhere, an explosion. It wasn't aimed at the squad. It struck a nearby bluff, sending rock and ice down in a roaring cascade. 2 soldiers were buried. A third slipped and twisted his leg. Lex didn't fire. Reth scanned the ridge. He's controlling the terrain, flushing us. Another flare, this time from behind. Then silence. The troops were disoriented, boxed between 2 cliffs, visibility reduced to 20 meters. The old tricks. Confuse, isolate, dismantle. Fall back to defensive posture, Reth ordered. Too late. A mine detonated near the path's edge, shredding one trooper's lower half. Screams echoed. Above, the faint silhouette of a figure appeared through the snow. Lex fired once. The bullet punched through the blurred light of a shield and into the command module on the trooper's shoulder. The lights died. Reth drew his weapon and fired into the snow, but Lex had already vanished. In orbit, Talvon watched the feed with a hard expression. 3 more down, an adjutant reported. Minimal engagement time. No audio. He's toying with them. Talvon's jaw tensed. Deploy orbital scanner. Burn the valley clean. Sir, terrain integrity. Do it. Lex retreated through the tunnel, his pulse finally rising. A low rumble churned through the earth. The mountain itself vibrated. Snow began to collapse, not for natural drift, but from kinetic disruption. Orbital bombardment. He reached the fallback cave where Armin and the others waited. Time to move, he said, already grabbing gear. We're not ready. We don't have time. Lex pulled a flare from his coat. I'll draw them off. He looked at Rhea. Get them to Site 3. Don't stop. Don't wait for me. Rhea's eyes flared with protest. Lex didn't argue. He simply sprinted into the snow, flare igniting behind him like a red comet vanishing into the void. Behind him, the mountain screamed. Ahead, the Empire followed. The flare's crimson light flickered out after 13 minutes, swallowed by the blizzard. Lex had dropped it intentionally near a collapsed ridge, creating a false lead. His true path twisted down a crevasse to the east, a gap only someone born to this terrain would recognize as passable. Even with the Empire scouring every inch of snow with orbital sensors, they hadn't adapted to this level of misdirection. Their methods were too clean, too rational. Lex didn't play rational. He played desperate, and desperate men broke patterns. He moved fast, conserving heat by exerting just enough effort to stay warm without sweating. Moisture was death out here. As he descended toward a hidden cache he'd buried a year ago, he thought of Rhea and Armin. He wondered if they'd reached Site 3, the old comm station embedded in the mountain's hollow spine. If they had, they could establish a brief signal window, one burst transmission to any surviving Earth enclaves. If not, this was all just defiance delaying extinction. Lex's hand found a rock marker. He dug quickly, brushing away snow until the metal panel emerged. A locked supply bin. He opened it with a 4-digit code he hadn't written down in years. Inside, a replacement barrel, 3 loaded mags, 1 shock trap, and a canister of old, pressurized thermite. He pocketed everything, slung his rifle again, and looked to the north. That's where they'd be now. Coming, relentless, methodical. He moved. Miles away, Commander Reth stared into a burned-out chasm. The orbital strike had carved a neat gouge into the valley, vaporizing snow and stone alike. Yet no body had been recovered. Not even scraps. One of the wounded troopers, his right arm replaced by emergency carbon lattice mesh, stepped forward. Still no visual, Commander. Traces of movement, but all divergent. He's leaving decoys. Reth's lips tightened. We're not fighting a man. We're fighting a mindset. He activated his HUD overlay, scanned for terrain modifications, elevation shifts, anything irregular. The scanner pulsed. After a moment, it chirped. "Tunnel," said the trooper. "Runs beneath the valley. Man-made. Old mining shaft, sealed at both ends, until recently." Reth nodded. "He's routing behind us. Predictable now." "Sir, permission to deploy stalkers?" "No. Too noisy. Send a triad. Non-linked AI. I want them mute, autonomous, and expendable." 3 shadow black forms stepped from the transport pod nearby. Tall, slender, insect-like. Stalker drones. Their red visors flashed once before they vanished into the snow. Lex paused on a frozen ledge as the wind shifted. Something felt off. Not the cold, not the terrain, but the stillness. It had weight now. He ducked instantly, and a dart-like projectile whispered past where his head had been. A stalker. He rolled, unslung his rifle, and fired blindly. The bullet cracked against something invisible, followed by a mechanical screech. 1 down. 2 more to go. He ran downslope, firing once more mid-sprint. No contact. The second stalker burst from the snow, jaws open like a trap, too close to aim. Lex dropped flat, the thing sailing overhead. He spun, jammed the thermite canister's nozzle into the stalker's side, and activated it. White fire erupted, the scream drowned by chemical heat. The stalker buckled, its frame melting in seconds. The third one waited. Lex froze, listened, then ducked just in time. The stalker's blade missed his throat by inches. He fell onto his back, rifle pinned beneath him. The machine pounced, and Lex drove the shock trap into its undercarriage. A high-voltage burst tore through its circuits, locking its joints mid-strike. He shoved it off, pulled his sidearm, and emptied 3 shots into its visor. It twitched, then stilled. Lex exhaled hard, standing slowly. His legs burned. Blood smeared one glove. Not deep, but enough to warn him he was pushing limits. He didn't stop. By nightfall, he reached the glacier mouth that led to Site 3. He tapped the entry code. A pulse sequence on a concealed plate beneath the ice. Nothing. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Then, faintly a shift. The door cracked open just enough for a whisper of warm air to escape. Armin pulled it wider, face pale and worn. "You're late," he said. "I brought souvenirs," Lex muttered. Inside, the others gathered, a half-dozen survivors, all thinner than they'd been a week ago. Rhea looked up, eyes rimmed red with fatigue, but lit with something that hadn't died yet, hope. "We got one burst out," she said. "Encrypted. Anyone answer?" "No, but it's out there." Lex sat down heavily. "That's something. We have problems," Armin cut in. "Stalkers passed through here earlier. Avoided engagement. Like they were searching, not fighting. They weren't after us," Lex said. "They were mapping. Which means they know where this place is." Armin cursed softly. "We've got 12 hours at most. Then we move," Lex said. "North route. Ridge 7. It'll delay them." "We've got wounded," Rhea said. "They won't make the climb." Lex didn't answer. Instead, he stood, walked to the storage unit, and pulled out the last fuel cell. Enough to power the emergency heater or power the old fusion core. "You're staying," Armin realized. "I'll hold the ridge. Keep them guessing. You move everyone else." Rhea stepped forward. "You're not a martyr. Don't pretend you are." "I'm a delay," Lex said quietly. "That's all I've ever been. But delays by time. Maybe enough." He set the fuel cell in his pack. "Check the remaining ammo. For rounds." "You'll die," she said. He looked at her then, not as the young fighter he'd trained, but as the leader she'd become. "Probably," he admitted. "But if they think I'm here, they won't look for you." Rhea's voice broke. "Let me stay too." "You're the signal now," Lex said. "Not me." Armin didn't argue. Neither did the others. That silence was the burden they all carried. Some fought, some ran, some died to make sure others could do either. Lex waited until they were gone. Then he climbed a ridge. The stars were visible for once, sharp points of silver against deep indigo. He took position on the highest outcrop, rifle balanced on one knee. In the valley below, he saw movement, a transport, lights blinking silently. They'd found him, or thought they had. He smiled. Chamber round. One man, one rifle, one ridge, and the Empire, laughing less with every step. The cold pressed down like a second skin, seeping into joints and marrow, turning breath to steam and thought to instinct. Lex Maren adjusted the barrel of his rifle, fingers steady despite the frost biting through the last functional layer of his gloves. The Empire's forward patrols were crawling through the snowfield below, fanning out in their classic sweep triangle, predictable, efficient, lethal. He tracked the left flank soldier. Pattern armor. Shoulder insignia designating high response. They'd sent elites now. Not drones. Not stalkers. Men. That meant they were worried. That meant he'd done something right. The rifle bucked gently as the shot rang out. The soldier dropped before his squad even registered the echo. Lex ducked back into the hollow, sliding a new round into the chamber, eyes flicking to the valley. They were using pulse triangulation now. Old tech, but reliable. He shifted positions before the scan could locate him. They'd expected chaos on Earth. Rebellion, sure. Maybe a last futile stand, but not cohesion. Not a ghost with a trigger hand and a map of every cave system west of the Urals. Certainly not someone who had turned the entire mountain range into a chessboard where they only ever played black. In a command crawler miles away, Commander Reth watched the telemetry with clenched fists. He's bleeding us again. Same patterns. Hit and vanish. Hit and vanish. One of his aides leaned forward. We're losing momentum. 75% reduction in squad efficiency since entering this region. We're losing morale, Reth corrected sharply. The soldiers don't fear death. They fear not seeing it coming. The aide hesitated. There's a solution. Reth turned. Speak. Firestorm sweep. Scorch the entire ridgeline. Level the terrain. Collapse the caves. And risk killing the signals he's protecting? If we don't, we'll never reach them. And we both know what that message could do if it reaches the outer colonies. Reth's jaw tightened. Prepare the strike. Lex could feel the hum in the earth long before the sky lit red. The air shimmered. Not heat, vibration. Kinetic tremors moving through frozen soil, shaking the roots of the mountain. He looked up. The clouds had begun to pulse with orange light, too rhythmic to be natural. His lips parted, dry and cracked, as realization hit. Firestorm. The Empire was done playing. He activated the shortwave link in his belt, aligned to Site 3 if the signal still held. Rhea, he said. Come in. A pause. Static. Then, Lex. You're still, what does that sound? Orbital sweep incoming. You have 10 minutes max. You need to be below Echo Shelf before then. We're already en route. You bought us the time. Lex closed his eyes. Good. There was silence. Then Rhea again. Lex, don't stay. He wanted to answer. Wanted to lie. To tell her he was right behind them. But he couldn't force the words past his tongue. So he shut off the comm. The first lance hit a mile south. The ground rippled as if a giant had struck the earth with an invisible hammer. Fire licked the sky, red gold and hungry. Lex watched it, stunned by the beauty and terror in equal measure. He knew there were no reinforcements coming, no mass uprising on the way. Earth was a graveyard of resistance. But if even one enclave received that signal, if even one system realized a single sniper had held back the Galactic Empire's finest, with nothing but patience and terrain and the will to keep breathing, it might be enough. He moved again. down the ridge, past old burial trenches and shattered drone husks. He reached the edge of the fallback cavern, the one he prepared weeks earlier but never used. Inside, old Earth tech disconnected from modern systems. One final gift, a jerry-rigged pulse beacon set to broadcast the same message over and over in a loop. They can be hurt. He activated it. Lights flickered. The broadcast began. Footsteps crunched behind him. Lex didn't turn. "You're late." Reth's voice cut through the cold. "You're the last one." Lex shrugged slightly. "Maybe. I should kill you. You've been trying." "I don't understand you," Reth said. "Your people lost. Your planet burns. And still, you fight like it matters." Lex finally turned. His face was gaunt, his coat ragged, but his eyes were steady, filled with something Reth had seen on other battlefields and never quite grasped. Resolve without reward. "You don't understand," Lex said, "because you've never had to fight for something that couldn't be rebuilt." Reth raised his weapon. Lex didn't flinch. "You fire," Lex said. "You prove everything I've said is true. You show the Empire is afraid of one man with a rifle." "Then I'll leave you here," Reth said coldly. "Let the fire take you." "That works too." Reth stared at him, then lowered the gun. "You're not worth the bullet." He turned and walked out. Lex waited until the sound of boots faded. The broadcast continued. Outside, the sky burned. Inside, the signal pulsed. Miles away, deep underground, Rhea felt the quake as it reached their tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Armin looked at her, and she knew he was thinking the same thing. Lex wouldn't be following. She touched the transmitter, still blinking. He'd done it. The signal was out. Tears traced her cheeks, hot against her skin. Above, in orbit, the Imperial flagship received a delayed report. One man, 72 hours of resistance. 47 confirmed kills. Strategic disruption of a planetary assault. The report ended with a single line. Engagement inconclusive. Objective not eliminated. High Command debated retaliation protocols. Planetary sterilization was proposed, then shelved. Too expensive. Too visible. Instead, they shifted focus to colonies further out, cleaner targets, easier wins. But word spread. Among miners on Tau Ceti, among outlaws on Proxima B, among scattered Terran survivors eking out lives in the dark corners of space. The Empire had come to Earth expecting surrender. Instead, they found silence, snowfall, and one sniper who never stopped fighting. And across the stars, humanity remembered how to resist.